countdown. So, we're just on here for a couple seconds and hi, how are you? It's and then probably what I'll do, I'll go back, I'll edit this out so that it's not on there. And then we'll get a couple people to come on. It is what it is. I just realized what I forgot to do. All right. And now we're going, damn it, my mouse. My mouse is weird. I gave my mouse. Well, I gave the mouse, I bought this mouse cheap and I gave it to my son, and my son said, "Oh, it doesn't work. Can I have the good one you bought?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. You can have the good one." I didn't realize how bad this one was.
Sure. That's good parenting.
I'm a great dad. I'll give you the cheap, crappy one, and then I'll go over. So as we got a couple people coming in there on the Instagrams, and the nice thing about doing it on YouTube is that I can post it there easily. Hi from Brazil. We have a person from Brazil. So as we're coming in here, thank you guys for being on. We're coming in. We're listening to. Hey, Mara's here. She loves you. We are. You remember her? Silver Hair and Sawdust. And we are here with my. Abs, I love you. Like I love watching you. I love seeing the stuff you're doing because it's so amazing. So we're here with Larissa Huff tonight. How you doing, Larissa?
I'm great. How are you?
Like I said, I am enjoying the sun. I'm not used to it being 8 o'clock and sunny.
It is so helpful for motivation, for sure. I get so much more done in the summer.
Yes, right. You can stay out in the shop and not feel like it's anything.
Totally.
So with Larissa here, Larissa is an outstanding, amazing woodworker. And I was talking about this the other day, and as I did your introduction, one of the things I said is that you're a skilled or talented and skilled. And I always have a problem with people saying, "Oh, you're so talented," because you have talent, but you are immensely. That really is what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about how you gained all these skills through your apprentices. I know you effing love Larissa, Sean Kirsch, and Rob says, and Sarah says. So let's start with this great information, this great story, right? What is your origin story?
All right. Well, it's kind of a long one, I guess, depending on how much time we've got. An hour. We've got the time. First of all, thank you for saying that I'm skilled and talented. That's very kind. I learned woodworking during an apprenticeship. I answered a Craigslist ad for a woodworking apprenticeship, and I had never done any woodworking before. I had never used a power tool, maybe used like a hand drill, hung like pictures on my wall or something, but I had never done any woodworking. And I was a math teacher before, and I had moved to a new city and was looking for a teaching job and didn't have my certification in Pennsylvania. So it was actually an ad for a woodworking apprenticeship / teaching assistant. And so I thought I could probably get away with teaching woodworking without a certification. Yeah. So during my apprenticeship, I learned how to make my mentors' designs. So there was a lot of hand holding at first. And then, like many apprenticeships, I got more and more responsibility. And once I was trusted with tools, I was encouraged to stay in the evenings and the weekends and make my own stuff. I made a bunch of cutting boards and picture frames like everybody does to learn, make a lot of mistakes. And then I slowly started like gaining ownership of the business that I was apprenticing at. And I was there for 9.5 years with a collaborative business partner. And then 3 or 4 years ago, it dissolved, and I am now in the studio that I have of my own in Philly.
A few steps back, right? Because I feel like you condense the first, 9 years into 3, maybe 2 minutes. And I'd like to delve in a little bit more on that. So let's start with this. You saw the ad, right? You're like, all right, I need something with teaching. You're just looking for something to do. Probably as a certified teacher. Hey, Evan and Ryan, you're like, okay, I'm a teacher. I know I need to get my certification. This is an easy thing for me to look at.
Sure.
So you went in. Were there other people applying for it? Were you the first person? And that comes across a little rude. You're like, well, were you the only person? That's not what I mean. But
yeah, I got it because I was the only applicant. No, just kidding. I didn't know at the time, like, it was Craigslist. It was 2012.
okay,
So it was like, I don't know. It was early days of getting jobs on Craigslist. And
right,
I got called for an interview. You had to like submit an art portfolio because they wanted you to like prove that you had some creative
okay,
juices. And they were actually looking for somebody who had not done woodworking because my mentor wanted to teach me the right way the first time so that I did things the way that he did things. Um,
okay,
so part of my interview was teaching a 5-minute lesson. So I had to
okay.
show my art portfolio and prove that I could teach a lesson in 5 minutes.
Did you teach a math lesson?
Of course I did. I taught a lesson on pi.
Okay, no, that makes sense.
Classic.
So the art portfolio. So were you doing art before that?
I had always been like a hobbyist art person. So I would pick up, like paper crafts or like carving into pumpkins and like gourds and stuff, or drawing, or just like photography, whatever I could get. Whatever I could get my hands on, whatever I could afford at the time to just like mess around with in my spare time. And luckily I had taken like a few photos. So I had them, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I was blocking a comment. Sorry about that. Okay, so that makes sense, right? So, and this is one of the things I find interesting talking to different people, how the art background that they had really plays a big part in their creativity. And there's a couple people I've talked to who've gone to art school, and it's really played. Yeah, so I can see that being a big part of it in terms of showing your creativity, right?
Yeah, I think because the shop that I came up in was so small, there was a lot of like conversations about design choices. And I think with only 3 people being in there, they needed all 3 voices to have like some insight or like some
Yeah.
idea of what was visually interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. So they hire you out of everyone because you have no woodworking skill, which again, I think that's amazing because that's really allowing him to build you. So I assume he started you then just with the hand tools.
Actually, no.
Like,
So
this is what I want to know. I want to know the first thing he taught you and how it went.
my very first day, they were building. I don't remember if it was Morris chairs or like it was some arts and crafts style furniture piece, and there were these like square cutouts as like designs on the side. So they like set me up with a chisel and mallet and like had me chiseling squares to start. And then the following week was actually they taught a class called practical woodworking. It was 6 days long, and it was like an intensive woodworking class. And I took that class as like my thrown into the weeds training. And the first day or the second day, I'm sorry, we were on the table saw. So
Okay.
it all happened very quickly.
So how did you feel at that very beginning? Like, were you, I mean, let's go to the obvious is you were nervous,
Sure.
right? Did you look at this and go and say, oh, I don't know if I can do this? Or was it immediate, like, this is a lot of fun?
Definitely, this is a lot of fun. My nerves were like just new job nerves. I don't know that I was like scared of the machinery or anything. Partially because I didn't know what to be scared of. I knew like a skinny sharp thing is dangerous, but I was like, if I'm in a class and they're training the general public how to do this, I'm going to be fine.
Right.
And it was, I built a table.
I want to come back to that, but I got to just think about this. How, first of all, like you said, the new job jitters. You've been in this job for a week, right? And you go, okay, now I've got to learn how to do this completely different thing on top of that.
It was weird. It was a wild time. And I think that like what I had going for me was that I was fresh out of college. I'd only been teaching in schools for a year. So like, your early 20s are when you have the confidence and the the caution to throw to the wind, if you will. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. So now you're in that first week, you've gained some skill, right? Talk a little bit about what happened after that. Like, where did you go after that with them?
So I agreed to work. I think it was like 3 days. It was part-time, 3 days a week. And the shop was about an hour from my house.
Oh,
Yeah, sometimes longer depending on traffic. But so I worked the 3 days a week, and then I was tutoring math and SAT prep in my other hours. So it was like a balance, and I was trying to figure out. I had 90 days to decide if I wanted to commit to 2 years at the company or not. And they had the same decision to make. We were going to
yeah,
regroup it after 90 days and say, does this feel right? Does everybody feel good? Because training an apprentice costs the company money, obviously.
right. Yeah,
So for the first 90 days, it was just kind of like, do I like this when I go home at the end of the day? Does it feel fulfilling? Does it feel good? Do I want to do it for 2 years? But there was a lot of fetching things and cleaning things and like just watching the two of them do stuff. And a lot of learning how to, he first primarily taught me or like trained me how to teach the classes, since that's where my knowledge base existed. So once I was comfortable on the
right.
machines and like knew the process, it was, all right, how do we get you doing demos and helping the students?
So is it bad that my first thought when you talked about those 90 days, I don't know why, was the Dread Pirate Roberts in The Princess Bride saying to Wesley, okay, I'll probably kill you tomorrow, but you did a good job today. Right? I mean, that's got to be how it feels like. You keep worrying about, okay, so I'm hearing that there's problems on Instagram. Guys, I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you for coming over. If you are on Instagram, I'm sorry. It's okay on YouTube. But I keep feeling like that's got to be how you felt during those first 90 days. You're measuring yourself, and you're kind of going, well, do they like me?
Yeah. And shocker, woodworking is a male dominated field. So the fact that I was a young female factored in, because a lot of our students, there weren't a lot of students that looked like me. Nobody that worked there was in my age or gender demographic. So there was a lot of like, if I stay here for 2 years, am I going to feel safe? Am I going to feel supported? Am I going to be like trusted to do things? Am I going to see like upward growth? There was a lot of growing pains, I think, on all parts, as any small business has,
Yeah. So that's interesting because, as a guy, that's not something I would think of, but as a dad, right, as a parent of an 18-year-old daughter, I can totally see, both myself thinking of that and my daughter thinking about that. So, Evan said, what was the first tool you learned to use as an apprentice? And I know that you answered that earlier, but let's answer that for him while I reformulate my question.
The first tool that I was actually handed was a chisel and mallet, but I would say I learned all of the power tools and stationary machinery all in 1 week during like an intensive table build. So as far as the first tool that I had in my hands was a chisel and mallet, but I was quickly on the table saw using plunge routers, using jointers, planers, all kinds of heavy duty stuff.
So I wanted to take this is a sort of a sidetrack for me, and I want to come back to this building, and I want to talk about your math background and how it applies as well. But in terms of I hate to ask this, do you feel that as a woman, right? Since we're already talking about this, over the years you've been doing this for years, what's your feeling been overall? Like I know that you obviously felt supported there.
Yeah. It's hard to describe the experience of being a woman in the field in like a trade. A lot of times it's really great, and I feel empowered, and I feel there's a really, really strong community of female makers now, and we really lean on each other a lot. But it wasn't, there have been times where I felt undervalued. I get questioned a lot, even now when I'm teaching, some people will like interrupt my demos and explain over me, which is an interesting dilemma. But yeah, I don't. There's good days and bad, I guess.
And that's what I was going to ask, especially with the fact that you teach this. So how do you handle that when some jackass? I mean, let's be honest. That's how do you handle that when when someone does that?
Usually, I will give them a couple chances. Like they'll say something, and I'll say, "You can do it that way," but the reason that I'm doing it this way is because X, Y, and Z. And I will give them a couple opportunities to be like, "Oh, I realize I don't need to be doing this, and I should trust her as a teacher." And if they don't, then I usually, and this is like probably luck, the other students will start to notice and be like, "Dude, why?"
Right. I got to remember to send you a clip of I can't remember the guy's name. He was on I'll just say it right now. The guy that was on Ted Lasso, the gruff soccer player. Did you ever watch that? Right. So there's a clip that I saw on TikTok the other day. Absolutely died. I had to show it to my wife. He's talking. He says he gets a phone call from this girl, this friend of his, and she says, "Yeah, it's really hard working with this guy. He keeps doing this man explaining thing, and his face is mansplaining. Oh, I can't say it. If I say it was right, it was just hilarious to me." Question from Instagram: what school does she teach at? I missed that part.
Oh, I teach all over. I teach usually a week or two long workshops at craft schools, mostly along the East Coast so far. So this year, I just finished up a class at Pinecraft in Kentucky. I'm off to the Center for Furniture Craftsmanship, Wooden Boat School, Florida School of Woodworking, Wendell Castle. I'll be back at this year.
By the way, I do want to say this. If anybody wants to come listen to Larissa and learn from her, listen, that was terrible. Learn from you at Wendell Castle. I actually have a discount code for people to take classes at Wendell Castle. So
it's a beautiful place. It's a really amazing place.
I am dying. I really, really want to go and take a class. It's tough for me at this time of year. Okay. So let's come back. So now you got to your 90 days, right? Obviously, the obvious thing is that at 90 days, you guys sat down and said, "Hey, I'm enjoying this." And they said, "We're enjoying having you here." So were you teaching any classes at that point?
For a long time, I'd say probably for the first year and a half, I was mostly like an assistant. So I would watch the demos and then I'd help the students like execute the thing. And then I started getting handed off like the easier quote unquote ones, like the less stressful ones, the less long ones. And then eventually the owner of the business retired and me and Rob Spees took over and we started teaching all of the classes and designing all of the furniture. And that's when I really started getting like my footing and my feeling about design and my confidence in being able to teach wood specifically. Yeah.
So let's come back to that in a few minutes. I want to, Brian said he saw your demo of the Shaper Origin at the Woodworking. Yeah. So I again, going along with the story, what was the first class that you taught there? Again, no reason. I'm just curious.
So the way that it was structured is we ran one 6-day class a month. So we'd build furniture for 3 weeks and then have a class for a week. And the class that we ran the most was called Practical Woodworking. And we started with 3 rough boards and finished the week with a glued up hall table. And learned all of the hand tools and machines and furniture design and stuff all along the way. And then we had 4 other advanced classes that students could take that were like sprinkled in throughout the year. One was a chair, one was a veneered cabinet, one was a like arts and crafts style side table, and then a stool class. Yeah, there were like other side quests that, as you would say, that they take. But yeah, the practical woodworking class is the one that I was taught to teach first.
So DBH Sunset in Instagram says Pinecraft. Is that right? He lives in Kentucky. Yeah. How do they sign up for him? I'm assuming you just go to the website and look it up.
Yeah, it's Pinecraft School of Woodworking or Woodworking School. It's like associated with Berea College. So it's in Berea, Kentucky, and they have amazing workshops on woodworking and like broom making and all sorts of really, really cool stuff.
And then this ENCURTIS. I'm not sure who that is. I had to type all in caps. He says one was a box, bro. Not sure what that means, but I don't know.
He actually does deserve credit for that. He helped us. He helped us design a box making class that he co-taught. So Eric has left the building and now he's at home chatting.
That's fine. At least he's not using the planer anymore. So never heard of him. He said never heard of him. So hold your hands up to the camera. Why do you? That's a weird question, Greg. Hey, Greg said hold your hands up to the camera. I'm not sure why. He wants to make sure you have all your fingers because he doesn't.
Oh, I see.
Okay. So now you start building these classes and you're designing, you start designing stuff after did you buy out the other guy or did he just retire?
He gifted us shares of the business. It was, small business. So he just wanted, it was on his property. So he just wanted it to carry on. So he gifted us shares.
That's nice. That is nice. So, okay. So now I want to come back to this idea, this thing that's been, sitting in my head. As a math teacher, as someone who likes math, and that would be you, sure. Not me. Math is not my favorite thing. So you're now designing your own pieces, yep. Right? And there's a whole lot of stuff. Yes, and Russell, let's come to that question in just a few minutes. There's a whole lot of stuff around this, right? And part of this with design is your creativity, your artistic mind. How does your art or your math background play into that?
My math background first showed itself in value in jig making. I really, okay. as you know, jig making is so fun and is so practical and so like it was a comfortable space for me because it was logic based. And I could like dial things in to work just the way I wanted and then duplicate the thing over and over. And then over the years, I started pivoting to, since I've